raise this volume up a little bit. How about that? You guys let me know in the chat room how that is working out for you. My levels look good here, but you know how this kind of thing goes. There are these gamers on YouTube that, man, they do this stuff for like 10 hours a day. I watched one guy for a little while just because he was kind of fascinating. He was fun to watch. But he had this stuff down to a science, man. His levels, his production values, his lighting, all that stuff was just grade A. This is my first go at it. I've done a couple of live streams before, but I used my phone and I put it on a tripod and just kind of talked to the camera. And that was cool. That was fine. Honestly, I'll probably do another one here in a little bit with the release of the Abbey Road box set, which is coming up September 27th. So that'll be here before we know it. But I did like an unboxing of the White Album box set. We did the same thing with Sgt. Pepper. It wasn't me like talking to the camera like this necessarily. I think I did an overhead shot that just kind of looked down at the box set. I might do that again. Yeah, a little louder would be nice. Let me bump it up for you. Maximus Films. What's up, dude? All right, let's see. I'm going up a little bit more. Last thing, like I said, last thing I'm going to do is blow out anybody's speakers or whatever. So there you go. Again, let me know in the chat how this is working out. Yeah, but I'm kind of a newbie on doing this kind of thing. Again, I know it's popular on Twitch and for the gaming crowd and all that. But what's interesting about this channel, especially compared to like gaming channels, man, gaming channels are, kids, teenagers, 20s, even going into the 30s and everything. But I think you get to that late 30s demographic, certainly in the 40s, and it drops off. Here at the Fab 4 Archivist channel, because we're talking about stuff that happened 50, 60 years ago with Beatles and Beatles history and lore. The way it breaks down is really interesting. You would think that it might be a lot of old fogies, which, hi baby boomers, hi old fogies. I'm glad you're here. But I don't mean it like that. It's an interesting cross section. Just looking at it demographically, it really is, it's everybody. It's teenagers, it's 20s, 30s, 40s on up. So that's really cool. That's one thing that I like doing about this channel. But I think that means that as I'm talking to you guys about a live stream and I put it in the context of gaming, I have to keep in mind that, I've got a lot of folks who are, born before I was, and they may not be aware of, I'm sure they're aware of gaming, but they may not be aware of streaming, that kind of thing. Looking great so far. Jumpstartation. It's a fun name. Hello, guys. Sharpie Music said it sounds good. Said it sounds a little better. Boom. Thanks, guys. Less than 2 weeks. Yeah. Was it 2 weeks from this past Friday? And so I'm streaming this on what is today? Monday. Streaming this on a Monday. So is that right? It'll be a week from Friday, at least here in the US. That's another interesting thing about this channel and the breakdown demographically and all that. It's about 55% American. And then it's UK after that, Australia, Canada is way up there. I think Philippines and Germany are right behind there. So shout out to whoever's watching. I mean, I think in the last couple of news videos, I've talked about the US Amazon store, and I've talked about the box set pricing being right around $90 or whatever. And I'm always like, I try to stay aware that, I'm talking about the US Amazon store and I'm talking about US dollars so that anybody else can do that conversion, to pounds or euros or whatever in the world it is. Just because I'm aware that I'm only talking to 55% of the audience who can go straight up to the US Amazon store. So anyway, yeah, week from Friday, I'm a bit quiet. Let me bump that up a little bit more. Hold your ears. And here we go. There's a level that takes it up a little bit more. I don't want to go much more than that. And I also don't want to talk a whole lot louder because I got kids sleeping in the room behind me. I was setting some of this stuff up earlier and I heard so this is a bedroom that I'm in. I heard the bedroom right on the other side behind me. It's got my girls in it and they were kind of knocking on the wall, just being silly. They probably have their ears up to the wall right now, listening to what's going on. Maximus Film says it's really cool that your channel exists. I thought I was the only one in the world who is obsessed about the Beatles music in general. U.S. high school student, talking of demographics. Yeah. Man, high school, I got into the Beatles when I was in middle school, and that was, I think I said in one of the recent videos, I'm an anthology fan, right? And that kicked off 95. So I was in middle school at the time. I'm 37 now. So for me in high school, like I had plenty of cohorts, is that the right word? Cohorts who were fellow Beatles fans. But I was maybe a little bit more serious than the others. I'm glad we were all fans, but like I knew somebody who was really into The Who, and I knew somebody that was really into Janis Joplin or the Stones, and I was kind of the Beatles guy. So it was fun doing that, and it's even more fun talking to people, you know, across the world, across the nation, certainly, who are really into the Beatles the way that I was at that age. So yeah, keep it up, man. Hey, so yeah, I mean, I don't have a clue, you know, who's watching stuff like this. I know it's you know, it's all over the map. Let's see, it shows, I can tell you right now, 24 current viewers. I have no clue if this thing, if it ever scales. There are going to be a lot of people who kind of watch it for 2 seconds and they're like, oh, that's not my cup of tea. Then we're going to have other people who hang out the entire time. And honestly, something like this, it's so kind of chill, it's so off the cuff that, you know, I don't know. You want to go for 20 minutes? You want to go for longer than that? Whatever. That's cool. Let's see. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to post this to the channel like I've done some of the other live videos. But here's where I'm at. This is the next video. So what you see, I never can get my arrows right. What you see here is my editing software, and that's the next project that I'm working on. The last project, or the last big video that I did, not the news video that I did on Friday, and I call them the big videos, not the ones that are like just, here's the news, here's what's going on, but the ones that are deep dives, take a lot of time to research. I did kind of a 2-part series on Electric Light Orchestra. And in the second part, I think it was the second one, I mentioned John Lennon and how he was on the air on WNEW with Dennis Elsas. This was 1974, and it was supposed to be just a quick interview talking about his new album, Walls and Bridges. And he walks into the studio, and next thing you know, he's essentially just in there for a DJ stint for like 2 hours. And so Elsas realizes that he can, let's see, they might leave because they can't hear you. My system is maxed out. Yeah, if there are technical issues, y'all let me know. Again, you know, I'll reiterate for anybody who's just now joining, this is my first stab at this. And so all this, like, I'm fairly tech savvy enough to do this, but I'm not like some of these gamers who have these crazy water cooled systems and they're running, you know, just 2 computers, 3 computers to make stuff like this happen. Kind of just doing this just with the gear that I've got to see if it'll work. Anyway, let me, we'll bump this microphone up a little bit more. I'm watching my levels right here. I'm kind of getting into the yellow to the upper green. That's kind of where I want to be. I don't want to clip. Anyway, I will say, I'll go back to the Dennis Elsas thing and John Lennon being on the air. So in that, he talked about all kinds of stuff. And go check out DennisElsas.com, just like it sounds, Dennis, ELESAS.com. And I think it might be / John-Lennon. And I've linked to it in those ELO videos where you can check that stuff out. And so go to that page and you can listen to the entire interview. And it's really fun hearing John out of context, talking about stuff, talking about old hits and talking about Beatles songs and stuff. And Dennis put that pretty much the entire interview up there on his website. But what we're talking about is the ELO stuff. So I just grabbed those clips out of there. And I said in my last ELO video, the second part, where I was talking about the influences of the Beatles on ELO, essentially defending Electric Light Orchestra, defending Jeff Lynne in a lot of ways, saying, look, ELO was more than just copying the Beatles. They were certainly influenced, and there were certainly times where you're like, they snagged that straight from something on Sgt. Pepper. But all in all, even down to Jeff Lynne's record that he came out with, Alone in the Universe, is that the right title? Somebody will have to give me a shout. Alone in the Universe, if you listen to that record, the songwriting is just, it's typical Jeff Lynne, it's typical ELO stuff, and it's a little less heavy on the Beatles. So anyway, point being, so a lot of that video was kind of just a defense of ELO and Jeff Lynne. But I referenced this interview bit in here, so that's what I'm talking about. That's where I want this clip to go. So this clip is specifically talking about Showdown, the song Showdown, and this is what John Lennon said on there, is that it's got some Lou Christie, Lightning Strikes Again, and it's got some Marvin Gaye, I Heard It Through the Grapevine, with a little bit of Walrus underneath. That's the quote. So I said in my last video that I would put together another video, and I'm just going to post it to Facebook, mainly because of like copyright stuff, and this one might be a little bit heavier on the sound usage, the music usage, than some of my other stuff. So I don't want it to affect my channel as a whole. So I'm going to post it to Facebook. And so if you want to go like that page over there, you can. It's facebook.com/Fab4Archivist, just like this is youtube.com/Fab4Archivist. But yeah, so the Facebook page, I'm going to post this whenever the video's done. I probably won't get done tonight. I don't know. We might end up yammering back and forth for a little while before we even get into the edit. But that's kind of the purpose of this. And I thought it'd be fun to chat about Beatles, talk to you guys about some of this stuff, but by the same token, share what the edit process looks like. And I don't know if there's anybody out there, especially in the live chat right now, that's into the YouTube stuff, that edits their own videos. But I've learned a lot. I'm not a pro, but it's fun getting a little bit more serious about it and learning different things as I go along. Yeah. So let me check back into the chat and say hey to some of the folks here. And keep in mind, there's a delay of about, I timed it earlier, just on a test stream. It was about 45 seconds from the time that I say this to the time that you guys hear it. So when you respond immediately in the chat, you might be responding to something that I said a minute ago. So just heads up. So I'm really just going to look in here in the chat for stuff that's kind of related to the stream, whether it's technical quality or anything that I've said. Man, lots of Beatles fans in here. I mean, go figure, right? That's what this channel's all about. Sounds good. So Grammaximus, I want to go back to something that he or she said not too long ago. I find it funny how all the people I get along with are Gen Xers when it comes to the Beatles. Luckily, I have two close friends who love the Beatles. Yeah, the Gen X stuff. So if you think about that, like I'm, I guess, technically a millennial. Really? Check this out. Don't leave the stream, but note this for later. So, man, we're going to have a lot of sidebars with this kind of thing, aren't we? Go check this out if you're even close to my age. If you're in your mid-30s, go look up the Oregon Trail generation. We kind of fall in this gap between millennial and Gen X. And essentially the idea is that we grew up playing the Oregon Trail, but we didn't have the internet. So like we remember the time before the internet and the time after the internet, which there are a lot of people, a lot of millennials who don't necessarily remember that time. There are a lot of Gen Xers who didn't grow up with the internet, and they almost had to learn it as a second language, whether late in high school or college or whatever. So anyway, not to get on this big diatribe, but it's kind of interesting looking at the generational splits. But yeah, the Gen X guys and gals, they would have been in high school or college or even later when the anthology round hit. So they could probably absorb it a little bit more than, somebody like a 13-year-old me at the time. So it totally makes sense that that if you're into the Beatles now, if you know other Gen Xers, if you know a 40-year-old, man, y'all can speak on the same language. JL Gamer says, I love your videos. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's really fun making them for people who seriously enjoy them. Like I can make, and so this is not to disparage anybody. There are so many great creators on YouTube. I'm getting to know some of them. There are even great classic rock YouTubers that they'll talk about Zeppelin and they'll talk about The Who, and then they'll cover the Beatles a little bit. And for me, it's all Beatles. Now I might get into some of the solo stuff. I might get into some things that are kind of tertiary. So like the Bernard Purdie video that I did, it's obviously related to the Beatles. And for you to understand Purdie's claims, you've got to understand the Beatles, and you've got to be able to connect all that stuff together. But for this channel, man, it's all Beatles. And so for it to connect with people the way that it has, it just really means a lot to me. Don't forget, I mean, I'm not associated with Apple. I had somebody ask me the other day if I'm, secretly working for Apple to help promote the Beatles or something like that. I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy. I'm just a fan. And it's been fun finding other fans and using kind of my love of technology and knowing about this stuff a little bit and videos and going into my archives and all that stuff and sharing it. Scrolling down a little bit more. The Wesley Flower says, hey man, love the channel, great videos. Am I in Atlanta? I'm not. I'm actually in Kentucky. I'm north of Nashville, lived in Nashville for a while. Come down to Atlanta fairly often, Nashville fairly often for different things, for work and travel. Um, Speaking of YouTubers and speaking of Atlanta, Rick Beato is down there. And I've tried to get in touch with Rick. If anybody knows a connection to Rick, let me know. It'd be great to get in touch with him. He's a busy dude. I think he just crossed. Did he just cross 1 million subscribers? Somebody else might be able to look. But 1 million subscribers is insane. But his channel's insane. It's insanely great. So he's in Atlanta. But man, I just really appreciate his work. Sharpie Music says, I'm in a Beatles cover band where I'm the youngest by 30 years. Everyone else is Gen X. Yeah, I love a good Beatles cover band, man. That's great. Katie TLC says, I think she said, he or she says, I love the rooftop video. It was great. That was something that I expected to be like a 3-minute video when I was piecing all that stuff together. And it came out to be 17 minutes between part 1 and part 2. But you know, I just wanted to give it its due because it was such an interesting story, and I think I got in the weeds a little bit, but you know, again, it connects with people, right? This is one of those where if I've got, I don't even know how many people have watched it, 100,000 people who have watched this video going, I want a 20-minute deep dive on the process of the Beatles going from late 68 to the rooftop in 69, in January of 69. And that's all it was focused on, right? I didn't even get into the Niagara reels, and certainly didn't talk about things like Phil Spector or Yoko's involvement or anything like that. Like, it was all about just that process. So for it to be kind of that focused on that era of the band, and it to apparently connect with a bunch of people, that I'm thrilled to death. I'm very grateful for that. Found the Beatles through the Traveling Wilburys. Wow, most people would be the other way around. Like, by far. That's a cool story. That's a great story. Harmony Smurf says, love Rick's channel. I've learned so much music theory from him. I took a really basic music theory class in high school, and I played trombone for about 10 years, play guitar a little bit, play piano a little bit, but I'm nowhere near where I should be, probably, considering I've been playing as long as I have when it comes to theory. I'm right there with you. He has broken it down in so many different ways that I think laymen can understand it. You know, it's really complicated when you start talking about modes, and that's where I have a hard time wrapping my head around it. But Rick's a great teacher. All right. Hello from, hang on, let me get this right, Aguascalientes, Mexico. Yeah, hot water. What up? Rogags, Roga GS. You never know how to say people's usernames. So yeah, hello to Mexico. Waiting for the Abbey Road box set, man. Yeah, it'll be here before we know it. All right. Sharpie Music says, the amount of info there is to cover for the Get Back sessions in 1969 would take like 60 videos. Absolutely. Like 62-hour videos, which is one reason that the Let It Be movie, as it was probably unfair to the band. It's not the greatest movie to watch in the world, and I think, you know, Paul Ringo would still say that as it stands. You know, it's not a great movie, but Michael Lindsay Hogg did the best. I think he did the best he could with what he had. You know, just watching the Beatles go through that, he had to tell a story, and he had to create a story with the footage that he had, and he did a fine job of that. It wasn't optimistic, it wasn't positive. But as we're learning now, certainly as news kind of starts to leak a little bit more about what Peter Jackson is doing with, let's call it Let It Be 2020, it sounds like that's going to be a slightly different story. And so I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, Michael Lindsay Hogg's, whatever it was, 90 minutes, and Peter Jackson's 2-hour cut, it's not even scratching the surface. And another shout out, I'm going to give another shout out. I did it in those videos to Dan Rivkin. I was talking to Dan the other day about some Beatles news and some stuff that's coming out. His blog, They May Be Parted. It's just theymaybeparted.com. That guy is an expert on the last 3 years of the band. And, you know, sometimes he'll go a little bit before that or a little bit after that into the solo years to give it some context. But that guy knows his stuff, you know. I hope Mark Lewison talks to him when he starts working on Volume 3. And I know Mark Lewison can't talk to everybody, but Dan knows his stuff. So anyway, shout out Dan if you're watching. Let me take a drink real quick. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being here. This is really fun. This is fun kind of geeking out with you guys. I wish there was a better term for it. I think I've said that before in a live stream. Nerding out, geeking out, um, whatever our kind of fandom is here. And you're kind of on the inside or you're on the outside. The bigger videos on my channel, it really just pulls in the masses, general classic rock fans or casual Beatles fans. And I'm thrilled to death that they enjoy Here Comes the Sun, or they enjoy the story behind Hey Bulldog, because it gives them a deeper appreciation for the band and what the band went through in creating this stuff. But I don't expect them to really get into the nitty gritty, the Niagara reels. I can say that, and that means something to a lot of you. It may not mean something to all of you. If it doesn't mean anything to you, just go Google it. Go Google, I don't know, Get Back Sessions, Niagara reels to learn about those tapes. And you can learn a ton from me and Dan Rivkin and Wikipedia, and there's so much to learn. But obviously, when I sit here and sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself, but I know that I'm talking to dozens of people in the chat who come and go, and even down in the comments. I try to be really responsive in the comments to the videos that I make. But again, it's all about connecting to folks. So again, if you have just joined, if you're just now kind of jumping in on this stuff, or even if you're just kind of passively watching and not chiming in on the chat, here's what's up. Just a reminder, and you probably saw it from the title of the live video stream. It is 10:25 my time, and I thought 10:25 p.m. And I thought I'd jump in and edit my next video a little bit. Like I said, I probably won't get it done, but here's what's up. This is what this looks like for you guys. This is my editing program. If you're not a video editor, don't worry. I'm not going to get into a lot of this stuff, and maybe I'll give you just kind of a working knowledge of it. But this is my my timeline right here. So these are the elements that I'm using, and I still need some more elements, which is why I'm not going to get done tonight. But the way that I have it kind of paced out right now looks to be about a 2.5 minute video. This will be kind of quick, relatively speaking, compared to the 13-minute deep dives that I do. But I'm going to post this on Facebook here in the next few days. It'll be on my Facebook page for the channel. It's facebook.com/fab4archivist. And I'm posting it over there again because I'm using some music clips. Maybe I'm using them a little more liberally than I do on YouTube. I just ever have to be aware of copyright, and I really don't want them to take down the channel. I really like what we're creating here. I like the community that's happening here. And a copyright strike or 2 or 3 could nix everything. So I'm going to post this one over on Facebook where it's maybe a little bit less restrained. So yeah, here's what this looks like. So again, if you are just now joining us, this video is all about John Lennon's comment that ELO's song Showdown has influences from not only the Beatles, I'm the Walrus. He says it's got a little bit of walrus underneath, but also Lou Christie, Lightning Strikes, and Marvin Gaye's cover of I Heard It Through the Grapevine. So this is what my video looks like so far. These are just the elements of it. You'll hear some of the voiceover. You'll hear in the background. It won't sound crystal clear because I don't have it routed kind of through the stream right now. Just because that was a little bit more technically complicated and honestly taxing on everything. And I don't have my headphones in, so I won't get these edits nailed down. But again, this is just kind of a loose look. So yeah, I'm going to turn down this volume a bit and kick this off. Hello, Facebook friends. It's Lance. In my video about the Beatles' influence on Jeff Lynne/ELO, I mentioned how John Lennon took notice of ELO's song Showdown in 1974. So that's where I'm starting out. So that's just 11 seconds in. This is why these videos take forever to be put together. We're talking dozens of hours for the longer productions. So this is a 3-minute video. It'll be sub 3 minutes, and I'll have a few hours in it. I've already got maybe an hour just kind of stitching together some of these elements. But so you'll see, you guys can see this, right? Like this cursor right here. So you'll see this right here is what actually ends up being the final product. This right here is the timeline. So all these elements are stacked. So when you see me hover over this is just the background that I use for everybody. I was a dude doing an archive project. It's kind of become little thing that I use for all the things here on the live stream. You'll even see it. See, I can't do this pointing thing like some of these cool YouTubers can. Like, you see it right here? It's kind of behind Final Cut Pro, which is my software. It's kind of fun to have it there. But anyway, so as this cursor moves, you'll see that my time code right there moves as well. So as I get to this next image, when I hover over that, that's when it shows up. So I'm going to reference this and this and this. So one thing I'm going to go ahead and do before I even really start, I'm going to select all those, and I'm going to reduce those so that they kind of hover over that background. That makes sense? You see that one? And then I can turn that off if I need to, or turn it back on. But it's just kind of inset in the middle. I'm not going to do any big fades or anything like that. Again, this is just kind of a simple, when I'm referencing Lightning Strikes by Lou Christie, I'll show this. But I'm going to go back here for now and replay this.
Hello, Facebook friends. It's Lance. In my video about the Beatles' influence on Jeff Lynne/ELO, I mentioned how John Lennon took notice of ELO's.
So I'm very quickly like coming out of this intro graphic and mentioning this. In most of my videos, like I actually shoot a video. So the camera setup that you're seeing right now with the background and all that, I set that, and that's kind of my bed for everything. And then I edit the elements and I put them on top. And that's really nice too, because if I can't find the right image, the right video clip, whatever it is, like there's something else that's kind of underlying, so I don't have to sit on an image for 45 seconds, because that just drives me nuts from an editing standpoint. Not that I'm a serious hardcore documentarian, but you know what I mean. So I come out of this image, and then I want to go into this image right here. So this is an image of John Lennon with Dennis Elsas. And I use that image with permission because I talked to Dennis Elsas and got his okay to use this. So if you're watching, thanks again, Dennis. But this is Dennis and Lennon in 1974. Presumably, I don't know why it I don't know why it would not be, but this is when John swung by the station, and I'm sure Dennis said, hey, let's grab a shot. So I'm going to use this as I kind of set this up. And I'm going to bring this in.
About the Beatles' influence on Jeff Lynne/ELO, I mentioned how John Lennon took notice of ELO's song Showdown in 1974.
So I'm going to run that one out however long I need to. And then these elements right here. So this top one that's in purple is, you'll see where it says audio from DennisElsass.com. That's the title. Then obviously the picture of Lennon from 74. That's a photo that I couldn't find the copyright to. So, you know, I'm using this under fair use. Fair use is a whole nother crazy world, and I can't get into it. I did try to look for the copyright holder. Couldn't find the copyright holder. But it's a great photo of John. I cleaned it up a little bit from the source that I found. So that's the photo there. And then you'll see this green section right here. That is from my audio program where I took John Lennon's audio and ran it through that to kind of just give it that wave form that's appearing behind John in that shot right there. And then this right here where it says elsas1.mp3. I don't even know if you can see it. Probably depends on the size of your screen. But yeah, that whole thing right there, that is that's that clip where I actually play the John Lennon audio. So you see I've already made a little bit of space for it right there. And I'm going to scoot this over a bit and try to find the right place for it. My computer is working overtime right now, man. It is not feeling streaming, and I'm sending all this to a second monitor and editing video. It's kind of crazy. But you get the gist, right? So let me play this clip. Maybe you guys can hear it. If you can't, I'm sorry, but I'll crank it up. It was actually used in my most recent ELO video. What is it called? ELO and how the Beatles influenced Jeff Lynne/ELO, I think. So go check it out if you want to be able to hear the whole thing. But here it is, again, used with permission from Dennis. But this is where John is specifically mentioning the influences on Showdown.
This is a beautiful combination of I Heard It Through the Grapevine by Marvin Gaye and Lightning Strikes Again, Lou Christie. And it's a beautiful job with a little walrus underneath.
I just wanted to share a little video exploring what.
So yeah, that's what he's saying. He's talking about the connections between Lou Christie and Walrus and Marvin Gaye. Maybe instead of editing this all together, especially because my system is kind of, I don't know if you guys can hear it, my fan on my laptop is running like crazy right now trying to keep up. But it's doing a good job. I mean, let me know if the stream drops or whatever, but it still looks pretty decent to me. But check this out. What I'm going to do is mute this voiceover that I recorded previously. And so how about this? How about I give you kind of a real-time look at what I think these influences are going to be. Can you guys hear this stuff? If you are in the stream and you can hear this, let me know. If you can't, I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe I'll move the mic to it. But check this out. So John Lennon mentioned the connections between Showdown and I'm the Walrus. And I think he's hearing the cellos in Showdown. So here are the cellos in Showdown. It's actually not what I was going for. I wonder why my clip got moved around. I'm going to mute that for now. So anyway, think back to Showdown. Do. How about that? Is that good enough for now? That's why doing something like this live is really hard, because I really want to dig into it, but also I have to be careful, because if I want to play specifically that clip, I've got to hunt for it. And the way that YouTube works, it's a system called Content ID. It would hear me playing more than, like, let's say 3 seconds, let's say 7 seconds. There's no hard line on it. You never know. It varies from artist to artist and label to label. But it could pick up on that and be like, okay, Lance's copyright violation is in effect and the stream is shut down. So I don't want to get into that. I'll have to do that later. Point being, Showdown has some walrusy strings. So I'm going to play that in this video. Check this out. Here is a bit that I think John Lennon was hearing with his ears. So I think that's the section. And there are many sections in Walrus that have those walrusy strings that George Martin created and then used over and over throughout the rest of his career. What I did for this was I found an isolation, slight isolation of just the strings. If you can't hear this, sorry about it. Again, it will be in the full-blown video. Check this out. So that is a 3-second clip. I'm going to play this one more time. I'll play these two back to back. All right. Here's the first clip. That's the full band section, and then the strings isolated. One more time. What if I do this? Maybe this will be better, because I'm watching my levels, and they're not doing it. Check this out. So that is the full band version, and then here's the string isolated. Man, those cellos, that's where it's at. And you hear them in a lot of ELO songs, which is why I think Jeff Lynne or Roy Wood or whoever it was, maybe his manager, I talked to an ELO expert, they think that initial quote that said, we're going to pick up where the Beatles left off with I'm the Walrus. I talked to an ELO expert who said that Jeff blamed Roy blamed Jeff for the source of that. And it sounds like it may have come from one of their earlier managers who was kind of known as a bit of a showman. So think like Colonel Tom Parker to Elvis, if that makes any sense. Anyway, those walrus strings are throughout the ELO catalog, but Showdown, John specifically called it out. So it's fun talking about that. I'm going to hit pause for a second and check in on the chat and make sure that you guys aren't like, I can't hear anything. Love the orchestral bit in Walrus. It's beautiful. Yeah. From then on, let's see, Jumpstartation. Hang on, check this out. It says FF4 Archivist. If you're looking for the isolated elements, I know people who use the Beatles Rock Band video game because they needed to isolate each instrument for it. Maybe that's a good source for it, right? I can say no more. The Beatles cellos are something beyond human understanding. Man, it's George Martin, right? Another YouTube creator. I talked about Rick Beato a few minutes ago. Polyphonic, dude. If you have not subscribed to Polyphonic's channel, go check it out. I talked to him because I sampled one of his videos in my recent ELO video, and he gave me the okay to do that. He did a great video on George Martin. He kind of made the case for him being the fifth Beatle, and I think a lot of people earn that title. That's not something, it's great that there are 105th Beatles, right? George Martin is at the top of the list for me personally. Now, I think other people could argue Stu or Pete or Billy Preston. All those are noble. All those are great. For me, though, George Martin really brought them to the forefront. Anyway, this is opinion stuff. I don't really do opinion stuff that much on this channel, but George Martin, man, he's my boy. Yeah, the strings, from yesterday, 65, when he really brought that to life, and it was just Paul on guitar, right? And his string arrangement for yesterday is beautiful. But all the way to the very end, the stuff that he did specifically for the side 2 medley on Abbey Road, it was just amazing. And that's something that other people try their hand at. And Paul has done some orchestration stuff. And, somebody else, not George Martin, did the orchestration for She's Leaving Home and did a fine job. But it wasn't George Martin. And so, yeah, when you hear the cellos and I Am the Walrus, I'm going to play it one more time. When you hear the strings, man, it's just takes off. All right, check this out. I'm going to move the mic one more time. And that's all I can play. I don't know. They may have shut the stream down already. YouTube may be like, no. Check the chat one more time before I move into the next thing. And why don't we do this? Instead of editing the video, now that I've done I'm the Walrus, I'll do, maybe I'll do Lightning Strikes next, and we'll close it out with Grapevine, because Grapevine is great. Harmony Smurf says, yep, follow all the music video essay channels. There's so many great ones, right? 12 Tone, I don't know if you know about 12 Tone. 12 Tone's another great one. Not just Beatles, of course. And he gets into theory and structure more, and I love it. I love his style, writing it out and everything. Super clever. Polyphonic, love that guy. Rick Beato, love that guy. Yeah, I'm looking for more. Who's the, I don't even know his name. I subscribe to the channel. Guitar Samurai, love that guy. Even though some of his stuff is a little bit more, heavy rock, heavy metal, that guy he knows his stuff. He's not just sitting there shredding for the sake of shredding, but he knows his stuff, musically speaking. Babe Ruth, which is a great name, Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth says George Martin was a Beatle. Everybody else was the sixth Beatle. Just saying. All right. Well said. Well said. Jumpstartation says, you mentioned Mark Lewis, and you seem like the person to ask. I've been working through volume 1 of all these years, completely loving it. Is the 1,700-page extended edition worth getting? How can I say no to that? That's what I've got, which is that book right there. And I got it when it came out. And at the time, and maybe some Samurai Guitars, thank you, Harmony Smurf. At the time, the extended edition was only available from the UK. So you had to get it straight from the publisher. And I talked about Amazon earlier, right? And like translating, saying, hey, I went to the US Amazon store and this cost this many US dollars. For me to buy that, I actually had to go to the UK Amazon store and buy it and pay for whatever the shipping difference was. And how could I not? If you're a fan of this channel, and if you are a fan of the band's deep history, I think the extended edition is worth it. And so if you're waiting through the standard edition right now, enjoy it. Maybe sit on it a little bit. But yeah, see if you can snag an extended edition. But I don't know the current status on a US extended edition. I heard it's coming, but that was months ago, and I haven't heard anything else. So I don't know if that's like, hey, it's coming when volume 2 comes out or what. But I would say it's worth it. I mean, 1,700 pages, and it explores, generations and generations before 1940, before when Lennon was born, for instance. And it really gives great context to this stuff. That's one thing that I try to do with this channel. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I get too far in the weeds. But I try to give context, almost the historical context behind all this stuff. My Beatles news video that dropped on Friday that talked about Ringo and Paul essentially covering a John track for Ringo's new album, doing Grow Old With Me, giving the context on that and what that means. Hey, it's not a Beatles track, but it's two Beatles doing a John song. And then Ringo even said in that press release, and if you listen to the orchestration, there's a line that kind of borrows from Here Comes the Sun. And Ringo even said in the press release, it's all four of us together. We don't have many more of those moments left. We all know it. Ringo is, somebody hook me up, 79 years old. We need to enjoy this while we still can. And so that's something that I get really excited about. But the context on that, like for you to appreciate Grow Old With Me, you need to know that it was released on 1984's Milk and Honey, which was 4 years after John was gone, or 3 years, whenever it was released in 84. It was after John was already gone. And that was released somewhat incomplete. People have covered it since then. Glenn Campbell does a version of it that is great and especially poignant right now, considering he died a couple of years ago and his loss and decline. So super sweet song. Made a lot of sense for somebody like that to cover that. But the context, right? The context makes you appreciate that song even more. And the context, again, of like Now and Then, right? For you to appreciate Grow Old With Me, you need to know about Now and Then. And you need to know that they didn't make it very far with doing that. They didn't touch Grow With Old, and I'm talking about the mid-90s Anthology Project stuff, right? If you haven't seen that video, here I am trying to give you more context for that video now, right? The mid-90s, they didn't touch Grow Old With Me. They did touch Now and Then, and they didn't complete it, and they abandoned it fairly quickly. They're kind of competing stories about how far into the process they got. But again, the content, what I strive to do with the channel, give context and everything. I have to talk about Now and Then for Grow Old With Me, for me anyway, to have a lot of value being on Ringo's record. It's not just, oh yeah, Paul and Ringo got together to do a John song. Like it's deeper than that. Let's go back to the Lewison thing. So yeah, 1,700 pages within the extended edition gives a lot more context to things. Got a lot of George Martin lovers here. I love seeing that, guys. Harmony Smurf says, I haven't read the standard or extended ones, but I like the testimonial of Jeff Emmerich's book. Yeah, that was a good one. Check this out. If you really want to go deep, pretty deep, Jeff Emmerich, there are a lot of kind of naysayers, maybe cynics out there. Maybe they would call themselves critics, not cynics. I don't know. Of Jeff Emmerich's approach in that book. And so a lot of people feel like he didn't give everybody the fair shake that they should have gotten. I'll let you figure it out for yourself. Steve Hoffman, if you go to stevehoffman.tv and check out the forums there, and maybe search for Jeff Emmerich, maybe put in the title of his book, it may make you appreciate Jeff a little bit less, the way that he posited some things. But you know, it's Jeff Emmerich. Who else was there? You know, you've got the four Beatles, you've got George Martin, you've got your Ken Scotts, you've got your Alan Parsons, those kinds of guys. But Jeff Emmerich, man, talking about more fifth Beatles, right? Certainly in the production world, George Martin is tops, but Jeff Emmerich was directly responsible for so much stuff. There's one on the Canadian store at $140, which is what made me hesitate. I think you may have convinced me though. Yeah. I mean, not that I want anybody to spend a bunch of extra money just for no reason, but this is for a good cause, right? Like Beatle knowledge, like serious depth. That's where it's at. Lewison is Mark Lewison and known in this world for a certain reason. You know, there are hundreds of Beatles authors, and I've got a bunch of their books on my bookshelf, and Mark Lewison is there on my bookshelf for a reason. You know, it's just for funsies, right? Let me walk you guys through this. Again, context is everything, right? So I've got the Beatles complete scores, which I don't know if y'all can see that. If you're a musician, you have to have it. It's not flawless. It's really, really, really good though. And then Recording the Beatles, which is, forgive me, Brian Cahew and Ryan something. Hang on, I gotta check this out. author's names on there. Brian Cahew, who I've emailed with back and forth a couple of times. Amazing book. Those guys don't get enough credit for who they are. But check it out. It's out of print. I think they're going to do another print at some point, but it's insanely expensive right now. So unless you need it for a project, almost like you're writing your own book or something, maybe skip it for now. And a little birdie told me that they're working on a more accessible edition, not this hardbacked box set kind of thing, but I don't know, whatever. It's a great book. It's amazing. I used it, by the way, in the Here Comes the Sun video because it was what brought my attention to the Leslie speakers, the way that the guitars were run through the Leslie for Here Comes the Sun. I'd never heard that before. I guess I thought that was a synth or orchestration or whatever. Of course it's a Leslie. Like when you hear it like that, you're like, oh, that's the Leslie guitar. That book brought that out to me. So Beatles Complete Scores, Recording the Beatles, Beatles Tune In, Volume 1, Mark Lewison, the extended edition, the Beatles, the Hunter Davies. The reason I roll my eyes is because well, never mind. There are different ways to pronounce it. Hunter Davies, I'm sure, is the British way. Hunter Davies, first edition American copy of the Beatles biography, which was a Christmas present for my mother-in-law. Thank you. And then Beatles Gear, Andy Babiuk, killer resource. And then the Beatles Anthology, of course, which is incomplete in so many ways, but it's the authorized story, right? You got to know that stuff. All right. Check the chat one more time, and then I'll play a couple more samples. See, I knew this would go on for a while. It's 10:50. Are you kidding me? I'm enjoying this, though. Seems like you guys are, too. KDTLC says, I've got a super thick Beatle book. It's the thickest book I've ever seen. It's so intimidating. What book is it? I'm dying to know. All right. Harmony Smurf says, I didn't bother with the capital versions, all polyphonic versions for me. Cool. All right. So check this out. Let's get into a little bit more of this stuff. If you guys care. I care. It's kind of fun to walk you through it. So Showdown. When I heard the clip of Lennon saying, hey, it's got some Marvin Gaye in it, I don't know. I was thinking, Marvin Gaye, where's Marvin Gaye? I heard it through the grapevine in this. And I found it. And it's once you hear it, you can't unhear it, right? That's another great channel. You can't unhear this. Go check it out. That guy I've been talking to recently, and there might be something in the works on that. I'll zip my lips. But that guy is awesome, doing great stuff. But this is one of those situations, right, that once you hear it, you can't unhear it. So let me take you back into the timeline. So this is totally a spoiler if you're going to watch this video. But how many of you guys are going to dig into the live stream this far? So if you've made it this far, you can check it out. All right, so here's what I think is in Showdown, the Marvin Gaye grapevine reference. Oh, I gotta hush that up first. Check this out. It's quick. Here, put the mic on there again. So again, here is what I think John Lennon was hearing when he said that Showdown has a little bit of Marvin Gaye in it. Check this out. So it's a quick sample. I know. I wish I could use more. That's like 3 seconds. But check this out. Here's another one. Same song. And he does it again. All right. So you got it? Now, here is Marvin Gaye. You hear it, right? You hear it? Okay, check this out. All right. So I don't know if you guys were paying attention. There was something that went kind of viral on Twitter last week. And I'd heard this before. It was posted to YouTube like 7 years ago or something. But it's Marvin Gaye singing I Heard It Through the Grapevine a cappella. Somebody went through and pulled the isolated track out and then married it with a mimed performance that he did in 68 or whenever it was. And it's amazing watching this video because it looks like Marvin Gaye is just strutting around, just singing Heard It Through the Grapevine, straight up a cappella. But so let me play this section for you one more time with instrumentation followed by a cappella. So this has to be what John was hearing when he heard Jeff Lynne hit that falsetto part in Showdown. This was it. And he was right. All right. So that's it on the instrumentation. Check it out. Here's the acapella. With some other guy you knew before. Tell me that's not magic. That is magic. Okay. Play it one more time. With some other guy you knew before. With some other guy you knew before. Between. And then one more time on Showdown. Jeff Lynne hitting his falsetto. Anyway, you guys can tell I really enjoy doing this. This is like the greatest hobby in the world. Going, okay, let me pick this apart. What did John mean when he said this? He's right on the money. Oh, I said I was going to do lightning strikes first. Oh, well. In my timeline, Grapevine was right there. We can go back to Lou Christie because that's another good one. Let me check the chat and see what's up. Sharpie Music. Yeah, man. You hear that falsetto? That's it. That's it. Kitty says biography by Bob Spitz. Okay, so Azorb ST1111 says, yep, is a big George fan. I passed on Emmerich's book. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm trying to think of how to say this like fairly. You've got to read Jeff Emmerich's book. If you're into the Beatles, if you're into understanding what happened in the studio, you've got to read that book. You just don't have to believe everything as pure gospel. Like, just go into it with taking a few grains of salt, knowing that if George contradicted Jeff Emmerich, just keep in mind who's who there. Jeff's book is fantastic, though. It's great. Fortunately, I met Jeff May of last year, May of 2018. I think he passed away about a year ago. I met him at a Beatles conference thing and heard him give a talk, and he signed my book, and that was great. And then a few months later, he was gone. So anyway, just if you can come in contact with some of these guys, if you can hear them talk about some of this stuff, they're not going to last forever. If you can go see Ringo live, go see him if you haven't seen him. It's that, to me anyway, it's that valuable. From far away without my glasses, you look like modern Ringo. Man, Ringo is fit and trim. That's something that I'm not. So, thanks. Or should I say thanks? You just said I look like a 79-year-old man. I'm just joking. All right. Let's get into lightning. Let's see if I can find the right clip. Looks like some of my stuff didn't transfer over earlier. I'm going to go in here. So I'm just going to play this. This is the lightning clip from Lightning Strikes. I think what John was hearing, and I can't find the right clip right now, from Showdown. But if you know the song Showdown, ELO, and it's raining all over the world, I'll spare you. I won't sing it for you. But it's raining. Maybe I am going to sing it for you. But he's way up there, raining all over the world. He's hearing the chorus in Lightning Strikes. Check this out. If I could find the clip right now, let me see. Maybe I can't find it. It's just the chorus, right? Marvin Gaye clips. I told you guys this was pretty chill. This was pretty kind of off the cuff. I wasn't trying to impress anybody. Just wanted to kind of bring you into my world a little bit. Let's see, where's the chorus on this? Here it is. All right. So here's the chorus from Showdown that I was talking about. And doesn't that sound like lightning striking again? Not exactly, right? I think the Marvin Gaye reference is closer. But yeah, here's what John was hearing in Lou Christie's song. I listened through the song, and that was the closest that I came. And I don't think John was hearing much besides that. Sharpie Music says, I met Jeff at Beatlefest in Chicago in August, just 2 months before he passed. Yeah. Man, I haven't been to Beatlefest in a long time, which I should be ashamed to admit that, I guess, right? I went a few years in a row in the late 90s. Gosh, that sounds like forever ago. What's it like? What's it like now? So I remember it was held at the Hyatt Regency O'Hare, and it was a party. Like, people were playing guitars and stuff underneath the stairs, and there were jams everywhere. And I don't know, I can't imagine that it would have changed that much, right? Like, you're still going to have a bunch of collectibles and a bunch of Beatle fans who want to play the music and talk about the music and hear it and all that. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear kind of just a casual review from somebody about Chicago Beatle Fest. I hear New York Beatle Fest that's where it's at. So that's on my list for someday. Still at O'Hare Hyatt. Gotcha. Jam still lasts till 6 a.m. Yeah. Love hearing that. Oh, man. That's very cool. You play piano at them. Yeah, I'll have to make it sometime. I mean, I know, like, I'm not a celebrity or whatever, the way that social media people are. It's not like that. But I wonder if we could get some people together. Because I've got friends who like the Beatles. I don't have friends who love the Beatles. And that's one thing that I always liked about Beatlefest, is that it's like you're with your people. So I don't know, if I make it up there next August, I might see if we can, like, just get some people together for a drink or a jam or whatever. But that'd be great. Still a stellar time. That's great. Because, 18-year-old me or whatever, when I went, it was awesome. I loved it. But I don't know, was I naive? Was I just enjoying it because it was new? Was it a different era? I don't know. But yeah, I should give it a shot sometime. Give it a shot sometime. Papa Torrigiano says, John was hearing the resemblance as a fan of music and as a musician. Yeah, the quote that I played, or the quote that I'm talking about, where he references the song, he goes on to say, if you're in, I don't have the quote in front of me, nor do I have the audio, but he says something like, if you're into paying attention to where music comes from and little, like, I think he says something like where guitar riffs are nicked from, now you'll know. And so he's just kind of being honest, going, hey, look, I pay attention to this stuff, and sometimes I'll pull this out of here and pull that from there, and I'll make up a new thing that is, undeniably John Lennon, but influenced by whoever. Sharpie Music says, I'll definitely look out for you next year if you decide to come. Right on. You've got to come to the under the stairs jams. It's an experience like no other. Somewhere I've got, I'm showing my age here, VHS-C. Does anybody remember that? Not plain old VHS, but not mini DV. It was kind of the form factor between the two. And I've got VHS-C tapes. I don't even know how to convert them nowadays, from Beatlefest, from Under the Stairs. I need to track those down before they fade away, before they die off. I'd even post them on this channel, kind of as a, here's what Beatlefest was like 20 years ago. That'd be fun. All right, guys. Well, this has been awesome. I got to go to bed at some point in life. 11:04. I have no clue. How long has this been going on? This is crazy. Thank you all for joining me, especially the ones who've been here for a little bit, but not just that. Anybody who's been in here chatting with us and popped in and out, and even the lurkers who just kind of enjoyed it for what it was. I know this is not my typical content that I do on this channel. You know, I like to do stuff that is, I don't want to say scripted for the sake of scripted, but planned out, you know, well thought out. I don't like stammering and stuttering and ums and ahs and that kind of thing. You know, I like getting to the meat of it. Not that I'm uncool with being real. Like, I'm totally fine with being real, but there's something about having just that nice produced content that I enjoy when I'm watching video essayists, like, again, Polyphonic and those guys. So I do put a lot of time and attention into those videos, but something like this, thought it'd be fun. Haven't done a live stream in a while. This might be actually the only one that I've done in 2019. But since this has gone so well, honestly, I'll probably look at doing another one again for the box set when it comes out here shortly. That will not be me pontificating or telling stories or anything, I don't think, but just kind of here are my first impressions of the box set. Unfortunately, I won't be able to play any music. The 5.1 mix, you know, I wish you guys could come hang out with me and have a drink in my living room, because I'll set up the 5.1 and get my kids on the couch, and that's going to be an experience. We did the same thing with Sgt. Pepper, and it was the coolest thing hearing, like, I'll never forget hearing some of the sound effects and Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite go left and right, panning behind me in the rear speakers. And the kids were like, "Did you hear that, Dad?" It was very cool, very cool moment. So I would imagine the 5.1 mix for things like, how about the crickets on Sun King, or, you know, any of the effects on Come Together or Octopus's Garden or anything like that. Like, it's just going to be a lot of fun. I really enjoy that. But that's not something that translates to a live stream experience. You know what I mean? But the unboxing does. So it'll be fun to pick that apart. The Beatles official channel, the day that they announced that the Abbey Road box set was coming, they called it an unboxing video and just kind of said, okay, here are all the different elements. And it was cool of them to kind of tap into YouTube speak, you know, the way that unboxing videos are a thing. But let's be real, like, that's not an unboxing. I want a fan to go through that stuff. There's some other great Beatles channels out there. Again, Beatles specifics. Not that these guys are always like video essayist or high production. Sometimes it's really raw and it's beautiful in that way. But a couple that come to mind was I can't think of her name. She's a younger fan. It's a girl lady. I almost said Off the Beatle Path, George Martin reference. I don't know if anybody knows. Feel free to throw that out there. But she's cool. She posts on Reddit. She's got cool little content, man. Cool big content for that matter. I think she's had some big videos. But there's also Mean Mr. Mayo and Beatle Brad, and those guys they're great fans, man. They are just extremely passionate about the band and finding the right mixes of, you know, vinyl and you know, into collecting and all that stuff. The collecting is not really my thing. Like, storytelling is my thing. But I appreciate the collectors. And I really like when they're sharing this stuff here on YouTube. But anyway, like, so I fully expect those guys to do an unboxing. My brain isn't working right now. I can't think of all these guys' names. Vinyl Rewind, is that it? Vinyl Rewind, another channel. Love that dude's style. Love his Beatles passion. He does other things besides Beatles, obviously, but, you know, I think he's done some unboxing things before, but he's obviously focused on vinyl. Just really high quality. I like his swagger. But yeah, so there's some other folks to check out. Christine, Sharpie Music says, Christine Summer. That's one of the younger Beatle fan YouTubers. I don't know that name. I don't recognize that name, whether it's channel or individual, but I will check her out. But yeah, anyway, I've been trying to bring this in for a landing for 10 minutes. It's really fun. Fun having you guys here. Vinyl Rewind, yeah. Katie TLC says, I could make Beatles videos, and I have. Do it. This is such a fun community to be a part of, and fun language to learn, and language to speak, and people to interact with. What's I think the coolest thing about YouTube and this platform, podcasting, is kind of the same thing. There are 10 Beatles podcasts. Go subscribe to them all and listen to them whenever, right? YouTube channels are the same thing. Go subscribe to all the channels. Like, we all help each other out. We're all, not all of us, but a lot of us are kind of talking behind the scenes and going, okay, can we work together? Can we come up with some stuff? Can I use this content here? Holly Hobbs, the Holly Hobbs man, another great Beatles YouTuber, not solely Beatles, but he does some great stuff. I like his opinion. I like his emotion that he puts in stuff. But yeah, if you're thinking about doing the YouTube thing, man, go for it. It's fun. Yeah, the copyright issues, it's really hard. So truth be told, this channel, and I need to like tell the full story of this channel sometime, but this channel started out posting different remixes and Dutch imports, if you know what I mean, and the copyright stuff. And that was back in the Wild West of YouTube, and it stayed up and it got hundreds of thousands of views, and it was a lot of fun. And then copyright started coming, and everything was cracked down on, and Beatles stuff especially was hard hit. And so yeah, that was kind of the end of that era for this channel, but it's been around for a long time. So, okay, anyway, gonna pull this in for landing. Sharpie Music says Fab Four Free for All. Yes, that is, I mean, not that I'm playing favorites, but that is my favorite Beatles podcast. I know Mitch Axelrod. He is a great kind of big brother figure to me in this Beatles content world. He's helped me out a lot. I love that guy. If you're not subscribed to that podcast, go check it out. It's Fab, 4, free, 4, all.com. Very, very fantastic. Very fantastic. It is a fantastic Facebook page. The podcast is excellent, but the Facebook page is great. Anyway, guys, we got to bring this in for landing. This has been awesome. You guys are killer. Thank you for joining us. Even if you're watching this in the replay, maybe I'll leave this replay up for a little bit. But this has been a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do this a little bit more often. Yeah, been super chill, super fun. I think that's all I got. Now I got to figure out how to end this. I can hit stop streaming. I think that's what I might do. All right. I kind of feel like I'm getting ready to pour rain on the Wicked Witch. I'm melting.